Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I rise today on behalf of the Latino Caucus and Women's Caucus in observance of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. As we celebrate Dr. King's life and legacy, let us reflect on how we continue his journey on the moral arc towards justice. Because in this moment, our society looks more like the country then and not the racially and economically just society he dreamed for us. I was raised in the civil rights movement with Boricua parents who were active members of the Young Lords Party in New York, standing side by side the Black Panthers from California to New York City. They fought outside of the halls of power for the seat at a table like the one I and we now have the privilege to sit in today. They often shared with me that half of leadership is showing up, but full leadership is to make sure that you show up with the knowledge of how you show up. I ask you, colleagues, today to hold in your mind's eye one of the most iconic moments expressing allyship in the civil rights movement. And for us, we can draw upon and gaze upon that moment in 1965 in Selma, Alabama, crossing over the Edmund J. Pettus Bridge. Then expand out into the crowd around our Dr. Martin Luther King. Recognize the people before us linking arms together, regardless of ethnicity, race, gender identity, or sexual orientation or faith. They stood together. And I submit to you, colleagues, that that crowd was able to ultimately cross that bridge and secure the promise of an integrated society and our just society because our Black and brown brothers and sisters demanded that intention of our allies. I would love for you, if you are able to now, stand up. Colleagues, I ask you to do this because we can't link arms in this moment. We can't hold each other because of this pandemic. But as a reminder of that moment at the Edmund J. Pettus Bridge, I ask you to rise. Dr. King said once, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated with love. I ask you now, in your heart's eye, to think on how we can collectively be the allies that Dr. King expected us to be. And I ask you to consider in this moment now, as we try to unravel the vestiges of slavery from the fabric of the true yet often tested democracy that we have right now. I ask you to hold that in your hearts as we move forward in this session. Thank you, colleagues, for joining and standing with me in this moment of stillness that we often need as leaders so that we can lead with power in our privilege. We stand on this carpet of green. They stood on cement. We have the ability to bridge across our power and our privilege to be able to reach those who are in need in this divine state of California. Our diversity in California unlocks the power we always held. And when we stand in solidarity and throw off the chains of division, that is when we can be fully stand in our leadership. I thank you, colleagues, and respectfully ask for your aye vote.